Now, time for us to bring you the headlines on some of today's Nigeria dailies. And we got right here in the house to help us talk further on the emerging stories. Asiwaju Abayomi, a public affairs analyst. Hello, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, good to be here again.
All right, we are raising the curtain with the Daily Sun. COVID-19 court bars Obaseki from enforcing compulsory vaccination. Southern governors' collective decision. 11 southern states failed to meet September 1 open grazing ban deadline. With riders there, 5 states ignore agreement, 6 in process of bar, and Akeredolu signs bill into law. We also have PDP has not zoned presidency to the north, ex-national legal advisor. CBN goes after bank customers using fake travel documents to obtain forex. And lastly, River State VAT judgment can't stand. That came from Masari.
Okay, now we move on to the Punch, and the major one on the Punch is about the compulsory vaccination. And you see NMA Joesu kick as federal government threatens sanction. That's the main story on the Punch this morning. I'll just take a few more headlines and we'll move on to other papers. At the base of the table, you see the one. At the base of the paper, actually, you see the one about PDP leaders visit Jonathan Beg, ex-president, to stay. Court remands Ekiti man for raping 17-year-old daughter. And fix your cutoff marks, Jamb tells varsities and others. Let me take one more from the Punch, and this one is about the U.S. Toscano flights. The 6 Toscano jets cost them almost $500 million. That's coming from the U.S. envoy. Michael?
Yeah, the nation now. Buhari policy consistency puts economy on rebound. Super Tucano jets deployed to battle bandits, insurgents. Banks to publish names, BVN of Forex rules breakers. And Jamb scraps uniform cutoff mark in UTME. Back to you.
Okay, now we move on to the business day. And what's the main story on the business day this month? Let's take a look at that together. This one is about the Lagos state government. Lagos DES FIRS insists on collecting VAT. That's the main story concerning Lagos, and the one that concerns the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Retirees bet 474 billion naira in payment for life. More of this one you can find on page 4 of the paper. Telecoms growth slows for 6th straight quarter over NIN. Also, you can find more of this one on page 4 of the paper. And there's the one about 4 reasons truckers want extortion points removed. Those are the main stories on the business day this morning.
Okay, now the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, the 2021 policy meeting on Tuesday, took the decision to cancel general cutoff marks for admission into tertiary institutions and gave schools the freedom to set their individual minimum benchmarks for admission. Very much here in the studio with us is still Asiwaju. Now, Jamb has dropped the responsibility of determining entry cutoff marks for Nigerian universities and giving the individual universities the liberty to determine the benchmarks for their schools. Big news, but is it good news?
I love the fact that you started with a great question. It's a big news, but is it a good news? And I will say here today, like I've earlier said on another platform, that it is not a good news. Yes, it simply means that Jamb is trying to unsolve probably it's one of its core responsibilities. Because if you say you don't want to determine the cutoff mark for a national exams, then why then are you still conducting such exams? So it simply means you're probably saying, well, I think we should just stop conducting the exams and let the universities or let the higher institutions conduct the exams and determine their cut-off marks. Professor Isaac Oloyede, fantastic man. He has done quite tremendously well since he has assumed office. And just some weeks ago, his appointment was renewed. And one will wonder, is this part of the policies that he wants to introduce in his second term as the Jamb registrar? Or probably he's being coerced to just follow these policy through? Who knows, probably it's one of the conditions for his reappointment. Because I must say it here today that this policy seems to appear as a policy that is being funded by a particular section of the country.
Are you saying it as political?
Yes, there is hardly any policy in Nigeria that can be separated from politics.
Okay.
You agree with me that the northern part of the country, when it comes to education, they are not as privileged as the southern part of the country. So, take for example, if Jamb says 200 is the cutoff mark for everybody, it is most likely, very possible, even from antecedents, you can judge that southern candidates usually meet the cutoff mark, exceed the cutoff mark, and they seem to gain admission into the universities more or into the higher institutions more, unlike their counterparts from the northern part. So the implication of this is that if you say institutions should decide their cutoff mark, it simply means that if Suleiman Garuba writes Jamb in Kaduna and Abayomi Oke writes in Ogun State, and they both want to enter university, University of Maduguri, for example, may say 100 is my own cutoff mark for you, Suleiman. Just come in and do your thing. And University of Lagos will be insisting, or FUNAB for that matter in Abeokuta will be saying, okay, if we don't have 220, we can't enter. You understand? Now, more of Suleiman will gain admission into University of Maduguri.
Because of the lower
cutoff mark. While Abayomi Oke and his counterparts in Ogun State may have to struggle for another year or 2 more years before they could meet the cutoff mark of that federal university in their home state. So, if this is allowed, of course, I don't know if there is anything we can still do about it, but if it is allowed to stand, it simply means that we are trying to encourage, let me use that word, our folks in the northern part to gain admission into the institution, and maybe
with lower
cutoff mark. Maybe that will now bring the number of the northern youth in higher institution. Maybe it will bring it at par with that of the southern youth in the higher institutions. Probably that's what they want to achieve. Honestly, that's the way I see it.
No, you wouldn't think that Jamb should hands off, everything concerning admission in its entirety, with all these elements, here and there being taken off Jamb, because it's like they have very little or nothing anymore. Initially,
I advocated for. I've once advocated for what you are saying now.
Scrapping up Jamb.
Yes, but when Professor Ishak came on board and introduced the CBT, we could see that the revenue of Jamb increased, unlike those that were there in the past, that 3 million candidates we purchased from, and then what Jamb is remitting to the coffers of the government is not commensurate with the number of forms sold. Do you understand? So we feel, okay, now a new sheriff is in town, manning this particular government institution, and it appears that they want to do well. That was why I changed my mind. I said, okay, fine, let Jamb continue to oversee and superintend over national examination as the case is. But with this introduction of course, even with Jamb in place, do you know that a lot of students are gaining admission into some private institutions in Nigeria without sitting for Jamb? As a matter of fact, Jamb has been seen as a dreaded demon that is depriving young Nigerians from gaining admission into schools after their SSC. So this has given room for some private schools to thrive, for some international schools, our neighbors, Benin, Togo,
Ghana,
to begin to say, Nigerian students, come over.
That is already happening.
It's already happening. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they are like trooping there.
Honestly, in their numbers. So many times I've been approached.
Are you saying this is Jamb's fault now?
Yes, it is. It is. That was why I said I initially advocated that they should scrap Jamb. Let schools decide. If I want to get admission into university of whatever the name is now, let me go to that school, take their exams, and you know, if they feel I've passed in line with their merit standard, let them, you know, give me admissions. But like I said, when Professor Isha came with the CBT, came with you know, trying to ensure that the issue of exam malpractice, you know, is you know, reduced to barest minimum, I said, okay, fantastic. I think this man should be allowed to still run Jamb for a while, because who knows, some of these institutions, if you allow them to run their exams by themselves, allow them to run the cutoff mark, what we have seen while we were in school, the corruption that is, you know, that is taking place, even with their exams within the school,
yes,
may also be extended to, you know, admission exams like, you know, Jamb or whatever name that it will be called at that particular time. So that was why I said, okay, well, fine. Let's just allow Isaac Oloyede to continue. But well, with what is on ground now, if they allow this policy to stay, I think it's just better for Jamb to be dissolved. Let them just, I don't know the role they will now be playing. I don't know what the staff of Jamb, currently, I don't know where they will now deploy them to. Because you are already shaving away one of your core responsibilities, which is to decide the cutoff mark for exams.
Okay,
we have more, yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to the Punch newspaper. I mean, the major one on the headline on the paper this morning is the one about NMA and Juhesu kicking against federal government sanction, that's as regards compliance with COVID-19 vaccination. And the question right now is, should people be made to compulsorily get vaccination? And that's the main reason why they are kicking against it. If you go and check the paper once again, you see one of the writers there is saying you can't force people. The only thing you can do is enlightening them. And that's what NMA is telling the federal government. Let me hear your thoughts as regards this one. Is this the right way to go, the way the federal government are considering going about vaccination of COVID-19?
One will wonder, if you claim a particular thing is good for me, why then should you force me to take it or to go for it? Why not let me see more reasons why I should opt for it? This is democracy. We run democracy in Nigeria. But it appears that almost everything in Nigeria now seems to be tending towards autocracy. If you don't do this, and if we continue like this, we will only say that we run democracy theoretically, not practically. Because it will keep empowering civilians who wear uniforms these days to be more aggressive, to be more brutal, and to their high-handedness, we now know no bounds. Because this is one of the reasons why we shouted NSAS, NSAS. Because we noticed that the men in uniform, I call them civilians in uniform, because when they are not in uniform, they are our brothers. The civilians in uniforms, because they saw the body language.
I don't agree with you, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They go through special trainings and all that to get to that very level.
I mean, a general doesn't just pick up his...
No, do you understand?
He's a civilian in uniform. Because he's still a father. He's a brother to somebody. He's an uncle to somebody.
Why don't you simply call them by their names?
I don't want to. I think it's a choice.
Okay,
now, let me round up. Let me bring my point to a close by saying that because the body language, they see the body language of the leadership of the country, that the body language seemed to be on the part of using force to achieve compliance. That is why those men in uniform then were also interpreting that body language, and they were, you know, deliberately, you know, enforcing people to do what they are not supposed to do. If we go this route again and saying we will sanction you if you do not take vaccine, maybe the vaccine is good for me. Why must you sanction me if I don't want to take it? Give me adequate reasons why I should take it. Now, clear the myth that comes or that surrounds the vaccination. Let it be made abundantly clear to me that this is for my good. Let it also be known to me that taking the vaccine will, of course, because as we speak, I think the last time I was there, I was saying it's not even a guarantee that you will not contract the virus, because they only say it's about, I think it's about 60 to 70% success rate. So it's not close to 90, but we are just saying, okay, fine. If this is what we have on ground, let's still adopt it. So there is no reason for the government to compel us. Rather, they should advise us and let us see reasons why we should get this thing done. I'm glad now, because we need to balance our thought on this. I'm glad now that they said you can take the vaccine at any primary health center close to you. That means they've decentralized it. Because another thing is, if it's becoming difficult for me to take, then I'll probably shave the dates and keep doing my thing and with my life. But now that they have decentralized it, now that I can just walk into any primary health center and get vaccinated, somebody like me, I'm ready to get vaccinated now. But I'm still looking at my dad who had been vaccinated, I think some months ago. I want to see the reaction in him before I proceed. That's on a lighter note, then before I proceed to take mine. But also very importantly, I think as a country, we need to start thinking of how to convince our people to do what they're supposed to do instead of using.
Yes, I was actually going to talk about the enlightenment angle. Is it the work of the government now or the NMA themselves who should be enlightening? Because the NMA are asking the government to enlighten the people. So is this something they should split the job, or they should come together?
There is an agency of the government called National Orientation Agency. This is one of their core responsibilities. When was the last time you had any jingle on TV, any billboard, any publicity materials that is talking about public sensitization? Is that agency of the government
who should do this?
Is it dead now?
All right.
One of the things that they should do.
Okay.
Thank you so very much, Asiwaju Abayomi-Oke, a public affairs analyst, for doing justice to this very first subject. We have a second guest coming in to help us read meaning, understand the next topic, which will be the second topic for discussion this morning. Wait for it.